The road to Wembley begins, wait for it, now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today. My name is the Crimson Wolf and welcome back to the Chelsea Countdown for our first EFL Cup game of the season, taking on AFC Barrow. Now, I know the EFL Cup tends to get a bit of disrespect along the community. People tend to prioritise the league and the FA Cup and everything in between. While it doesn't necessarily have the prestige of that, silverware is silverware at the end of the day, and we should be doing everything in our power to go as deep into this tournament. We made it to the final last year and lost only 2 minutes away from penalties from a header from Virgil van Dijk to win the game, which was incredibly unfortunate. Anywho, enough grieving about the past, moving on to the future. And our future currently is AFC Barrow. They are obviously top of League 2 right now, doing quite well in that division. However, it's League 2. Now, I know I said this or a very similar thing when we played Servette, but I'm going to say it again. They're a League 2 side, we're a Premier League side. We should be battering them. So, with any luck, this goes better than that second leg against Servette did. We're in an incredibly good run of form right now. Our players are in some of the best form of their lives, and I think we could go and get a very good result. Hopefully, with the success that we've been doing and getting in the Prem, and the good performances and good results we've been coming out, Stamford Bridge is a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more enlightened than what it has been in the past. As we know from both Man City, Servette and the Palace games, it's not been the best atmosphere right now. I think our current form is just the nice boost that Stamford Bridge needs to start turning into a positive atmosphere, something that we sorely need right now. Stamford Bridge for the longest time in the 2000s was a fortress. I think it was, what, 4 years unbeaten at Stamford Bridge we had? And then eventually that came to an end. Last season, actually, to be fair, Stamford Bridge was again a bit of a fortress. Only 4 teams came away with a win there, which was Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, Wolves, which was by far the worst. Oh, Brentford, of course, I was there. None of those were particularly good performances, but every other team that showed up to Stamford Bridge, the best they got was a draw. If you're new to the Chelsea Countdown, then let me give you a quick overview. I go through lineups, expectations, and score predictions, the whole shebang for our upcoming game, and come to the result of what needs to happen in these games and what I expect to happen in these games. With that being said, I will move into the lineup, and I have to say, this has been one of the most difficult lineups to pick in a long time. However, the easiest choice in this entire 11 is the goalkeeper, and that is Philip Jorgensen. Now, as we know from Maresca, Philip Jorgensen starts in the cup games. Robert Sanchez starts in the Premier League. I wonder how many times I've said that.
No fewer than 65 times.
His only involvement has been in both Servette games, so we haven't seen much of him up to this point. Obviously, we're entering a period now where we're going to see quite a lot of him, because we'll be having the Carabao Cup games as well as our Conference League games. Obviously, next week we play our first one of those against Ghent. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of Jorgensen so we can understand what he's capable of, his shot stopping, his distribution. And then eventually we will come time for Maresca to pick his true number 1. At the minute, the competition's pretty good because Robert Sanchez has been absolutely phenomenal for us in the Premier League. Back-to-back games where he has been absolutely a force to be reckoned with, to be honest. Sanchez has been doing really good. Jorgensen, if he wants to displace Sanchez anytime soon, needs to really show that he's capable of not just matching Sanchez, but surpassing his abilities. And this is the first step on doing that. So Jorgensen will start this game. Moving into the back line, and I did have a bit of difficulty deciding who should play in this back line, but in the end I went with Joshua Chempong, Axel Dizazi, Benoit Badiashile, and a return to the squad for Ben Chilwell, who will likely be captain in this game. Not my favourite lineup, and I would be lying if I said the partnership of Badiashile and Dizazi, even against Barrow, didn't make me nervous. These two have been known to have the odd catastrophe every now and then. they have been known to put in a decent shift as well. The Aston Villa game last season, they played quite well together, but largely they do make me incredibly nervous. Guiu has looked largely awful so far in both pre-season and whenever he's featured. Largely against Servette he was genuinely awful in that second game against Servette. So I am incredibly hesitant about playing him. However, with the Brighton game upcoming, I doubt Maresca is going to be risking Levi Colwill, so I think he'll probably be resigned to the bench at best. Josh Chempong. Josh was spoken about by Maresca quite recently in a press conference when he mentioned him when we were talking about the right back situation, with obviously Malagusto unavailable for selection versus West Ham and Richane still out. Malagusto is back for the record, but A, even if he is in the squad, he definitely will not start, and B, I can't imagine him being risked. I think he'll probably be safe at the Brighton game come the weekend. So Josh Chempong starts in my opinion. As I said, Maresca mentioned him quite frequently quite recently, in one of his press conferences, which leads me to believe we're going to see at least some form of minutes for Josh in this game. I think he should start. With neither of our first choice right backs available for us, he is the only natural right back we have available to us, so he should really be starting. We all know the EFL Cup is a place where younger players get minutes, so this is the perfect stage for Josh to show what he's capable of. He's looked very good whenever I've seen him so far. He's 6'5", he's solid, he's quick. I think it was the Spurs game, he made more interceptions in that game than any player on the pitch, and he played 12 minutes of that game. So clearly he's capable. As for Ben Chilwell, I did toss back and forth who was going to play left back between him and Renato Vega. I've gone with Chilwell because Maresca did specifically mention that he was going to be involved in this game tomorrow, which does lead me to believe that he's going to be playing that left back role. As we all know, Chilwell is not in this squad by choice. He is in this squad because no one took him off our hands by the deadline. So we had no choice. As we know, Maresca isn't exactly the biggest fan of the style of fullback that Chilwell is, so he's probably going to restrict his minutes whenever possible. However, for this game, I do believe he's going to play him left back, and because of his seniority, I would imagine he's probably captain as well. He's not going to play Renato Vega there is because I do believe Renato Vega is going to be deployed elsewhere. And while I'm on the topic of that, I'll move into my midfield three, which is Renato Vega, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, and João Felix. Now, we have heard in Maresca's press conference that Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall is set to start for this game. This is the kind of game that Dewsbury-Hall should be doing incredibly well with. He should be linking up with that left-sided fullback and left-sided winger very well, obviously being a left-sided number 8, a creative number 8. He should be getting forward in the pitch, providing assists, possibly going in and scoring a goal. That would be very nice for the guy, and trying to get himself involved in the build-up play as much as possible. Renato Vega, obviously being the more defensive of the two, is going to sit back quite a bit and cover that back line a bit, and I will feel a lot more secure with him in front of Guiu and Dizazi. Even as I said, if it's Barrow, that just tells you how much little faith I have in Guiu, rightfully so, to be fair. Renato Vega has been an incredibly impressive signing. Every time he's played, he's looked powerful, he's looked imposing, obviously being billed at about, 6'3". He's a massive dude as well. I saw him up close once time. He is a genuinely massive dude, so he needs to be enforcing his will on these Barrow players. As we know, the lower the league, the generally more aggressive they tend to be, because that tends to be the only way they can get anything out of this game. They know they've not got the quality to outplay us, so they have to just start getting physical, trying to bully us. With Renato Vega, that's virtually impossible, so he just needs to be sticking it to those kind of players. As for João Felix, I think this is the kind of game that João Felix is going to take and grab by the scruff of the neck and make it his. This is the kind of game that João Felix would love to dictate and just make everything run through him. He's the one making everything happen, and I think that's something we're going to see. Felix hasn't actually made a start for us since his return to the club. Obviously, he's had plenty of cameos, obviously coming off the bench in the Wolves game to score that goal. Since then, he's come off the bench in both Palace, Bournemouth, and West Ham games, and put in some pretty decent performances. The Bournemouth one especially was incredibly impressive with how much he was just slicing through that Bournemouth defence. I think he can do a very similar thing against this lot. And I think he is going to be the talisman for us going and getting a convincing win in this game. Felix is an incredible player, and I'm very happy he is back with us now. I really like the guy, and I think this is his kind of game. Now we move into the front line, and I have tossed over this quite a lot. There is a multiple combinations of players that we could play in the front line for this game, but I've gone with the combination of Tyreek George, Mykhailo Mudryk, and Mark Guiu. I'd be lying if I said I was convinced by this front line. Mudryk has not filled me with hope this season pretty much at all. Even in preseason, he hasn't looked incredibly impressive. And obviously with the arrival of Jadon Sancho and Pedro Neto, he has now become a bit of an afterthought in the team. And obviously now we're hearing the rumours that he wants to leave in January so he can go find minutes. Obviously Marseille been sniffing around him, as I've been alluding to. Obviously his old manager Roberto De Zerbi is there. I don't imagine he's going to get incredibly large amount of minutes because the quality of depth in attack is unbelievable. I mentioned Sancho and Neto as the previously mentioned João Felix, obviously the likes of Cole Palmer and Noni Madueke, Nicholas Jackson, and Christopher Nkunku. So Mudryk is kind of an afterthought among all that. This is the kind of game that Mudryk should be starting and should be doing well in, really. If you can't do well against League 2 players, then you're not fit for the Premier League, full stop, mate. I'm sorry, you're not. As for Tyreek George, I really want to see what the guy's made of. Little glimpses of him in pre-season, and we saw a bit of him against Servette in the Conference League qualifiers. So I want to see a lot more of him. Everything we've heard coming out of Cobham is that the guy is an incredible player, and he's a great goal scorer. He's a great winger in general. He can play both sides. He can play number 10. He looks a very, very good player. He kind of reminds me of Raheem Sterling, but a little bit more competent in that aspect. I think George, if he's given the chance, prove that he's more than capable of being a player in this side. As for Mark Guiu, this has to be when Guiu gets his first goal. Surely this is when Guiu gets his first goal. I backed him to get his first goal in the Conference League. Obviously, he had that incredibly bad miss. I think that was the first game more than the second, which he really should have buried. But this has to be when he gets his first goal. If he starts this game, Guiu has to score. There is no better opportunity for him to get his first goal for us than this. If anything, and everything goes to plan, he'll get more than one. If he could get 2, or possibly even better, 3 goals in this game, then we can start having a little bit more belief in the kid. When you get belief in the kid, he gets belief in himself, he starts becoming confident, and then he starts bagging more goals when we need him to. And the clock keeps ticking, as you know. This should be a defining game for him when he starts proving himself to be the quality player that we expect him to be. As for our opposition, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about Barrow. I don't know who their manager is. I don't know who their player is. I don't even know what their stadium's called. The thing I do know is that they are a League 2 side. They may be top of League 2, but that does not change the fact they're a League 2 side. We should be winning this easily, man. This should be an easy win. Now, the only thing that could throw a spanner in the works, and I have seen this quite a lot, is that because we're going to be rotating quite a few players, which obviously those players haven't exactly played with each other the most and for the longest, so that could cause some problems with some growing issues here and there, which is a very valid concern. And I think we did see that quite a lot in the Servette game, both of them even, because obviously the teams we played them were practically completely different from the teams we played in our previous Premier League games in that way, but it does make things a little bit more complicated. However, I imagine they'll figure it out relatively quickly. I hope they figure it out relatively quickly, because we want to go and win this game. We want to go on an incredible cup run, avenge the loss of last year. If Maresca can win that Carabao Cup, start inspiring some belief in not just the players, not just the fans, just everybody, not even our fans necessarily, but everybody. When they start realizing how good they are, they start fearing us. When they start fearing us, the players start fearing us, and then the clock, as I said, keeps turning. We can go on this incredible cup run, make it to that final, win that trophy. We have the history of just pulling out the rabbit from the hat, per se. Nobody expected us to win either of our Champions Leagues going into that match. We were the underdogs for both of our Champions League finals against Bayern, against Manchester City. We've been the underdogs for a lot of finals that we've been to, and we've come out on top on more than our fair share. We just have this knack. It is embedded in the DNA of our club. We just have this knack for coming up trumps when it most counts. Now, admittedly, that trump card was usually called Didier Drogba. He usually dragged us to a lot, and I mean a lot, of silverware. But obviously now we don't have him, but we do have an incredible collection of players. Palmer comes up trumps whenever we need him pretty much all the time. The Man United game, for example, we needed him then and he came up big time. Jackson is starting to find his feet, and Kunku obviously coming off the bench to score that winner versus Bournemouth. Sancho and Neto and Felix and everyone else is going to contribute to this kind of run that we should be going on to inspire some belief. We need a good cup run. If we can win this and Maresca can get off to a fantastic start winning silverware, it may only be the Carabao Cup, but silverware is silverware at the end of the day. You don't disparage silverware. So we go and win that, then everybody starts to realize, not just us, not just the players, but everybody starts to realize that we are finally going to be a force to be reckoned with, not someone to be taken lightly. However, saying that, just because they're a League 2 team does not mean we can take Barrow lightly. Do I think they're going to run us off the park? No. They haven't got the quality for that. What could happen is they start going into us, they start trying to just out-muscle us, as per se. As long as we don't let them do that, we don't let them just try and batter us a little bit, just start sticking it to us, start kicking us and getting physical and everything. As long as we don't get them too hyped into that, this should be a pretty easy win. So, with that said, my score prediction for this game, I'll go for another clean sheet. I don't think we'll concede. I think Jorgensen shouldn't have too many problems for this game, outside of Badiashile having a complete catastrophe, and if that happens, genuinely, he should never play a game for us again. I really, really hope that's not the case, but if it does, oh, that blue review is going to be bad, bro. But anywho, that's for a later date. So, I'm going to go for a clean sheet, and I'm going to go 3-0. 3-0 for this game. Scorers, I already mentioned Mark Guiu. I think he'll score twice for this game. And then I'll go for Keane and Dewsbury Hall for the other goal. I could give it to George. That'd be really nice. I'd love to see him get his first goal. João Felix would obviously be nice to get another goal. It'd be nice to see Mudryk get a goal, crying out loud. But I'm going to go for Dewsbury Hall. I have a good feeling about Dewsbury Hall for this game. I think this could be the kind of game that kind of cements the reasoning for why we signed him. I know there's a lot of that up in the air with Dewsbury Hall. A lot of people are very confused why we signed him, and to be honest, on paper it's one of the more unnecessary transfers that we did. But this is the kind of game where Dewsbury Hall goes and grabs it by the scruff of the neck, similar to what I suggested with Felix, and makes people understand, this is what this guy is for, this is what this guy's good at, this is why we bought him. So I hope we get that kind of a game from Keane and Dewsbury Hall. The road to Wembley is a treacherous one, but it is one that we have done before. We can very well do again. We will stumble, we will slip, but we can get there. And if we do, then we could be looking at the start of something amazing. That was just my predictions for our first, and hopefully not last, EFL Cup game of this season. I hope you all very much enjoyed, and I hope that you will stick around for any further videos, and go check out some of my previous videos as well while you're at it. I'm sure you will enjoy them. But with that being said, my name is the Crimson Wolf. I am the reddest Chelsea fan on the internet. I hope you all enjoyed, and you will have all been amazing. So I'll see you in the next video. Good luck with it.